All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to talk about some speculations regarding some comebacks with two future Hall of Famers in Aaron Donald and J.J.Watt. So, J.J.Watt, 2023 was his first full year retired. He's become an analyst now with CBS. And, makes appearances on the Pat McAfee show as well. And with Aaron Donald, he recently retired. But, there's a possibility, slim chance that maybe, well, more so with J.J. Watt, with what he had to say recently. But there's maybe a small chance that maybe at least one of these guys could come back late in the season for their respective teams. Now, Aaron Donald played his full career his entire career with the Rams. J.J. Watt was with the Texans his whole career pretty much, but then spent some time with the Cardinals as well. So I wanted to get into Aaron Donald first because their general manager, Les Snead, he had some comments on Aaron Donald possibly coming back if the Rams go on another Super Bowl run. So this is what he said. This was recently on the Rich Eisen show. So he said, I did mention to Aaron that going back to our Super Bowl run, that there was a player by the name of Eric Weddle who kind of jumped into the playoffs and we signed him to the practice squad. And we standard elevated him for 4 straight games to a Super Bowl championship. So I did mention if we happen to get to the playoffs again, maybe we'll circle back and see if the cup's not quite filled, but that's just a rumor. I doubt Aaron's going to do that. So already he shut that down. But he also said Aaron's one of those guys where he's so principled, he might feel uncomfortable that, you know what, I didn't go through those other 18 games with the guys. I'm not sure I can go through the playoffs with them. Not sure we might tempt him. No breaking news here. So that's what he had to say on Aaron Donald. Because, yeah, they did do that with Eric Weddle, and Eric Weddle spent some time with the Rams. He was with the Chargers, he was with the Ravens, but was with the Rams, retired. Then they had him come back for the playoffs because they were dealing with some injuries in their secondary. And he ended up playing just in the playoffs and won a championship and then retired. So they could do that with Aaron Donald. Now, Aaron Donald has a Super Bowl ring. So if he comes back, it's just to, try to add to the hardware and win another one. But even Snead said probably not going to happen. But you never know. And Aaron Donald is probably still going to be staying in shape. I mean, he might not be in game shape, but he's going to be in shape. So if the Rams let him know ahead of time, like, hey, are you interested? I mean, I think the Rams are going to be a playoff team, or at least going to be a team that's, in the mix. I mean, they made the playoffs last year, so and losing Aaron Donald that's big. That's the anchor of your defense. And they addressed, the defensive side of the ball in the draft. And they're hoping that, they could at least get some production there without Aaron Donald, which they probably will. I mean, the Rams with Sean McVay, they'll figure it out. I mean, the offense is going to be good. But the defense, that was kind of the problem. I think that's... And it wasn't on Aaron Donald. It's just the defense. It wasn't like it was when they made it to the Super Bowl. They got to revamp it. And I think if the defense was better, I mean the Rams, they only lost to the Lions by a point. They could have upset them. That was one of the best playoff games from last year. So yeah, I mean we'll have to see. But if the Rams are going to the playoffs, I think there will be at least a conversation with Aaron Donald on, hey, you want to come back and we try to win another one? We'll see. But that's at least on the Aaron Donald front. So with him, with Snead bringing that up in the interview and saying it's probably not going to happen, probably won't happen, but I think there at least will be a conversation. Now with J.J. Watt, not saying that it will happen, but it's more likely that he would come back as opposed to Aaron Donald. So J.J. Watt, like I said, played for the Texans most of his career. Could have won an MVP back in 2014, but Aaron Rodgers won that. but many people said J.J. Watt should have won it. Also played with the Cardinals. He did say that if the Texans absolutely need him, he'll come back. He told D'Amico Ryans, their head coach, that he would be available if necessary, but emphasized that Ryans knows not to call unless it's truly essential. And the Texans did make a lot of moves this offseason. On the defensive side of the ball, they signed some guys on the defensive line, Danico Autry, Daniel Hunter, over from the Vikings. You still got Will Anderson Jr., who, was their rookie edge rusher who had a great season. So, yeah, unless injuries happen, J.J. Watt probably not coming back. But he at least has left the door open if they absolutely need him. So this is what he said. I've had 12 great years in this league, and I'm very thankful to have walked away healthy and playing great. I told D'Amico last year, I said, don't call unless you absolutely need it. But if you ever do call, I'll be there. And he knows not to call unless he absolutely needs it. This is the last year I'll tell him that because I'm not going to keep training the way I've been training. But he knows that if he ever truly does need it, I'll be there for him. I don't anticipate that happening. They've got a very good group. I mean, listen, I would love to see J.J. Watt come back and, go on a Super Bowl run with the Texans because they never really did with him. You had Deshaun Watson, and you made it to the divisional round. You're up 24-0 to the Chiefs, and they unfortunately blew that lead. They had a chance to play in the championship game, and that did not happen. And there was, at the quarterback position, you had Matt Schaub, and they had to start, and he got hurt a couple times. So you had T.J. Yates starting playoff games. Brock Osweiler, they gave him a lot of money, and they got to the divisional round and lost to the Patriots. And then, he goes to the Cardinals. They make the playoffs, but they got bounced out by the Rams. J.J. Watt never really got past the divisional round. There was never really a deep playoff run with him and the Texans, and it didn't happen with the Cardinals either. And with this team right now, the way the Texans are, I'm expecting big things out of them. That's another team that I really like what they've done this offseason, and I feel like they can make a run. And, we'll see how they match up now with the Ravens and the Chiefs. We'll see all that this upcoming year. But, they got to go out there and show it. Now, with what J.J. Watt had to say, see, it's a little different when talking about the comebacks of both of these guys because you're hearing it when talking about Aaron Donald. You're hearing it from the general manager's perspective of the Rams, as opposed to Aaron Donald directly saying, hey, I could come back if you need me. J.J. Watt's saying that. This is coming directly from J.J. Watt. But like he said, if there's a lot of injuries on the defensive line and they absolutely need help, he'll come back. So him coming back would be great, but it would be at the expense of, the Texans have a ton of injuries and they're desperate. They need somebody. So, but, yeah, I mean, like I said, I would like to see J.J. Watt come back and, he helps the Texans get to the Super Bowl and they win it and he goes out with the Super Bowl ring. That would be nice because he's a player that does deserve a ring. But, again, it's not going to happen. And it's unfortunate because you see players, that they go their entire career, they have solid careers, and then they end up retiring. And it's like that across all sports. That player deserves a ring, and that player deserves a ring. But sometimes that player doesn't always get it. I mean, Dan Marino, that's one example. One of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, doesn't have a Super Bowl ring. I mean, as a Yankee fan, I didn't watch a single second of his career, but Don Mattingly. Yankee fans love Don Mattingly. Don Mattingly doesn't have a World Series. It's unfortunate, but it's just that's what happens. And how many times does Shaquille O'Neal bother Charles Barkley about not having a ring? It's just that there's a lot of like I said, all across sports, there are many players that don't win championships, and that's why it's really special when you do win a championship. Michael Strahan, he won his only Super Bowl, and it was the year he retired. He decided to retire, and it came against the Patriots. Also, I don't know if I'll talk about this, but I did watch a little bit of that Tom Brady roast last night because now I just thought of when I brought up Strahan and beating the Patriots. I may or may not talk about it. I mean, but I'll say this though: ton of cursing. Like every other word was a curse word. It was like, geez. But, yeah, did watch a little bit of that. It was interesting. I mean, some parts were funny. Others were like, yeah. But, yeah, I just wanted to bring that up. But anyways, yeah, Tom Brady, talk about, players that got rings, But anyways, yeah, it's just, it's unfortunate when you have great players that deserve rings, they don't get it. But that's just how it is, Like Aaron Donald, he has a Super Bowl ring. And he even said that he accomplished everything he needed to accomplish. So he's good. Now, does that mean that the Rams are not going to reach out to him when, they're making a playoff push and, they got a chance to do something this year? They're going to reach out. Like I said, I think there'll be a conversation that will be had. But I think it's more likely that you would see a J.J.Watt comeback as opposed to an Aaron Donald comeback, because J.J.Watt directly said, hey, if they need me, I'll be there. That's kind of like what, for Marvel fans, that's like what, Captain America says at the end of Civil War to Iron Man in the note that he gives him. If you need me, I'll be there. So that's immediately what I thought of when J.J. Watt said that. I think that's the first time I ever brought up any Marvel stuff on the show. But yeah, that's what I thought of for some reason. I don't know, but yeah, like I said, a J.J. Watt comeback may be more likely, but it would be at the expense of guys being hurt on the defensive line for the Texans. So. And I think J.J. Watt, he's happy with what he's doing. Is going to be part of, NFL Today with all those guys, with Matt Ryan being added to that. So, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about that because it was funny how both of these stories came up around the same time. So. But let me know what you guys think. Who's more likely to come out of retirement? Let me know in the comments. So we're going to take our final break of the show. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about Saquon Barkley, talking about contract negotiations or lack thereof with the Giants, how there really wasn't any negotiations there. And, yeah, that will end off the show for today. So with that being said, stick around. And we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.